What is up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC prediction video. This week, we got another shitty card in the Apex. Without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get these full card predictions out of the way because this card is barely even worth watching, to be honest. First fight on the card, Carlos Hernandez versus Hyung Sung Park. Look, Park is undefeated. He's decent. Carlos Hernandez beat Niam in his last fight on the Peter Yan Davidson Figueiredo card. Decent performance there, more UFC experience. I'm normally not very impressed with these Asian fighters coming in off the regional scene. Not a very high level of competition over there. Give me Carlos Hernandez via decision in a very boring fight to start off the card. Our next fight on the card, one that actually will probably be entertaining. Youseff Delvalle, he fought on the Contender Series in the last episode of the last season, and he wildly impressed me. I had made a top 10 Dana White Contender Series prospects video, and I even left a comment in that video talking about how impressed I was with Youseff Delvalle's performance because I didn't mention him. And he just did so good, super gritty, super determined, was not taking no for an answer, imposed his will. You know, every single strike that he was throwing, you know, there was a meaning behind it. He had a lot of emphasis with what he was doing. And, you know, look, Connor Matthews is the exact opposite. You know, won on the Contender Series in an unimpressive manner, let's just be real. Lost to Dennis Bazooka, got absolutely stiffened last time out. Who did he fight? Was it David Martinez? No, Jose Delgado just absolutely stained him. I think Youseff Delvalle is just going to beat his ass for, you know, 2-3 rounds and get a late rounds TKO. So, yeah, give me Youseff Delvalle to get a gritty man's TKO in the second round. Next fight on the card, Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. This is just such a classic Apex fight. You know, Thiago Moises beat Trey Ogden last time out, but he really didn't do that good in that fight until he was able to really hurt, you know, what's his name's fucking leg, Trey Ogden. Jared Gordon last time out, though, you know, let's not forget that he really should have got the job done over Nasrat Haqparast, who just beat Esteban Ribovic. So that loss really is not aging poorly whatsoever. You know, he had a really close fight with Paddy Pimblett back in the day that a lot of people, the majority of MMA fans and the online media scoring, did give Jared Gordon that fight. And look, we know the deal with Jared Gordon. Well-rounded fighter, veteran of the sport, really good hands, good boxing. And yeah, even when he's in there with these younger guys with a better skill set, he's still able to hold his own. Thiago Moises, you know, trains with the Fighting Nerds. He's been in the UFC a long time. He's fought all the best guys, you know, Islam Makhachev, Ludovic Klein. His resume is very, very good. And I like his well-rounded ability here in this fight. I think it's going to be close, but give me Thiago Moises to get this done via 29-28 split decision. I actually think we could see Jared Gordon get robbed again, which would be hilarious. But yeah, I think Moises will be able, I almost said Moicano. I think Moises will be able to mix in a couple takedowns if he needs to. He's going to use that leg kick that he, you know, tends to have success with. And, you know, other than the knockdowns in the Ludovic Klein fight, he was in there, man. He was in there. He's got good kicks to the body and to the head. You know, I like his kicking game. His boxing game isn't great, but, you know, I tend to, you know, pick a guy that can, you know, mix up more tools, more paths to victory. We do know that he does have good grappling, good submissions on the mat once he gets there. Give me Thiago Moises via split decision, 29-28. Next fight on the card, just the absolute definition of an Apex fight again. We got Mateus Camilo, who I've never seen fight. I'm just going to be real. He fought on Fury FC. A lot of good, you know, prospects coming out of that promotion. You look at Jacoby Smith. You look at Cody Steele. A lot of good fighters coming out of Fury FC. And I do watch it when I get the chance, but I'm not familiar with this guy whatsoever. I'll be real. Gabe Green, you know, what do we even remember about Gabe Green? Lost to Ponzinibbio, lost to Ian Gary, lost to Brian Battle. The only people he's beat in the UFC were Phil Rowe and Johan Linnes. And I legitimately wouldn't mind my chances against those two fighters because it's that low of a level of competition. Genuinely, like, just not UFC level fighters that he's beating. But, well, I guess they are UFC level fighters, considering these are the types of cards that they're putting on now. But yeah, I mean, look, give me Camilo to get the job done here. Seems like a prospect. He's minus 250. The line movement's been going in his direction. So yeah, just based on that and the numbers, I'm going to be picking Camilo to win via, let's pick him to win by knockout. Fuck it. Next fight on the card. Okay, this one is actually going to be a decently intriguing matchup. I like both of these fighters. Of course, me and Mr. Erosa, we share the same name. Julian Erosa versus Mel Costa, who has really been on a good little win streak now. Beating Andre Philly, beating Christian Rodriguez, which is a win that I really do hold in high regard. I think that is a very, very high level win there for Mel Costa. And was it a close fight? Yeah. Could it have actually gone to C-Rod? I do think so. C-Rod, was just foot sweeping him every second. Mel Costa did have, some good reversals. He had some good work against the fence. Smart fight IQ. He's got good kickboxing, kind of fights like Pereira, but Julian Erosa does have good boxing. He's going to be taller. He's going to have a big reach advantage here in this fight, and I think that could definitely help him, but he really looked like dog shit against Darren Elkins until Darren Elkins just quit. And was he, managing risk, just kind of taking it easy, just in case he happened to get tired? I think he knew he was going to win that fight, but still, he should have been able to get Darren Elkins out of there within, the first 2 minutes of that fight. He actually kind of made it slightly competitive for as long as it lasted. Not competitive, but, Darren Elkins was in there. Darren Elkins literally looked like a napkin getting dropped into some water. That's how easily he just disintegrated in the cage. And Julian Erosa, look, he was kind of looking slow and not looking too crisp on the feet. You look back at him like starting out in the UFC, beating guys like Sean Woodson, had a nice head kick TKO on the Dana White Contender Series, and even beating guys like Ramos and C-Rod by submission. Those are good wins. Both of these guys do have a good submission game, good guillotines, but I'm going to lean on the side of Mel Costa here. I think he's sharper, faster, he's going to be younger. And look, Julian Erosa, it's just, I saw a lack of intensity, and I saw a lack of, emphasis on the shots he was throwing versus Darren Elkins. I just don't really like that look against such a washed-up, low-level fighter. And Mel Costa, he's coming off of very good wins. He just beat, one of the dark horses in that division in Christian Rodriguez. So give me Mel Costa to win this one. I'll actually pick him to win by third round TKO. If you look back at Julian Erosa's career, when he does get finished up, it tends to be against southpaws. And, Mel Costa is a southpaw. So, yeah, give me Mel Costa to get the job done here. Next fight on the card, Nursulton Rudziboyev versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Look, Rudziboyev's going to win this fight, and I think he does win by first round TKO. He's an absolute marauder, super fucking tall, nasty, fucking like million-yard reach. He can literally reach you across the cage without even having to fucking close the distance whatsoever. And look, he's just going to have the long, lanky, straight shots. He really did seem to be improved from that Joaquin Buckley fight. But, I picked him to beat Joaquin Buckley. I made a whole video about it, that individual matchup. But I didn't know how good Buckley was then. And Buckley now, don't even get me started on what he's going to do to Kamaru Usman. That's going to be disgusting. But give me Nursulton to get the job done here. Dustin Stoltzfus was able to get the TKO last time out versus Marc-Andre Barriault. But we know that Barriault has a glass chin. If Nursulton is anything, he's absolutely dog tough. And, he does hit hard. You look at his finish over Dumas. You look at his finish last time out versus Eric McConan, the legend. Not really, but you know what I mean. The dude's naturally gifted with his, power, with his athleticism, with his frame. Even in the fight with Bruno Ferreira, I actually think that this could go very similar to that fight with Bruno Ferreira. I could see him, Dustin Stoltzfus trying to close the distance, get aggressive, and, close the distance in a sloppy manner. Because, a guy like Marc-Andre Barriault, he's just really not going to make you pay with a counter shot or something like that, or a long knee up the middle. Nursulton, he is capable of that. And unless Dustin Stoltzfus is just able to hold him down on the mat for 15, which I really don't see happening, Nursulton's getting this one done. So, yeah, give me Rudziboyev first round TKO. I think he just lands a clean right hand. All right, next fight on the card. Looking forward to this one. Interesting little fight here in the featherweight division. Sadiq Youseff versus Myron Santos. Santos coming off of a absolutely disgusting robbery where he should be ashamed of himself, genuinely, against, who was it last time out that he fought on the goddamn pay-per-view that he was on? Pereira versus Ankalaev pay-per-view. Francis Marshall. Francis Marshall won that fight rounds 2 and 3 for sure. or it might have been 1-3, but he 100% won that fight. Myron Santos, I mean, look, he's talented. He's got some good striking abilities. I'm not too impressed with the grappling. He had a nice little left hook in his UFC debut when he was coming off of Tough, and then he got the robbery last time out. Look, he's good and he has accurate striking, does have, natural power in his hands, good shot finding ability. He's kind of just like, one of these classic Brazilian kickboxers. But Sodiq Youseff, very well-rounded fighter, very experienced at a high level. He's fought in some really good guys. You look at even his Dana White Contender Series fight versus Mike Davis. He has some notable names on his resume. You look at Diego Lopez, title challenger, Arnold Allen, top contender, Edson Barboza, crafty vet. And even though when you look at his record, you're not seeing great names pop off the page, Andre Fili, Alex Caceres, a couple other guys that really aren't that impressive, let's be real. Even though he does have the experience advantage here, the chin is definitely suspect. He's been dropped and hurt pretty badly in his last 2 fights. I mean, Edson Barboza dropped him horribly with a spinning wheel kick, had him doing the stanky leg, and then obviously he got absolutely stained last time out versus Diego Lopez at UFC 300. The chin is definitely a concern. I'm glad he took the time off that he did, but it could lead him to being a little rusty and, just does leave the chin on the firing line a lot of the times. But let's be honest, he's fighting a high level of competition who does have shot finding ability. Barboza, Diego Lopez, I mean, these guys are very good strikers. So can you really fault him too much for that? If he mixes in the grappling, I think he could definitely do good. I mean, you're talking about a former ranked fighter who's really only lost to very good competition. I actually don't think Myron Santos is that good. Give me Sodiq Youseff for a bounce back. For a bounce back KO in the second round. Bounce back KO for Sodiq Youseff in the second round after getting dropped in the first. That's my prediction there. Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig. Paul Craig is just a disgrace of a fighter. He's not good. All he has is a round kick and jiu-jitsu. And look, if you don't entertain the jiu-jitsu, it's not going to work on you. He fluked Magomed Ankalaev. That actually didn't happen. That was an AI video. And look, Bellato, even though I don't think he's very good at all, he was able to beat Pateria, had a Marauder TKO in the Contender Series. And I forgot that fight with Jimmy Crute was a draw on the Duplessis versus Sean Strickland card. Forgot that fight ended in a draw. But look, Jake Matthews, good fighter, experienced fighter. Jimmy Crute, not Jake fucking Matthews. Jake Matthews did fight on that card, but Jimmy Crute, experienced fighter, decent, well-rounded. He was, in his hometown, had that momentum, that, grit, desire to get the job done. And Bellato went out there, made it a scrap with him. They had a good little fight. And look, I mean, Paul Craig, he just doesn't have a path to victory unless somebody just jumps into the dumbest submission of all time. So yeah, Bellato gets the job done by TKO. Paul Craig, retire, please. Like, get out of here. Or fight Andre Muniz. He already fought Andre Muniz and beat him by TKO. Yeah, Paul Craig needs to retire. I'm done with that. I mean, he's obviously just coming out here for a paycheck. He literally is just hoping to God that he doesn't get knocked out. And he's just going out there to, pick and prod his way to a close decision loss. So I just don't respect that. I mean, obviously there's room in the sport for jobbers, but I mean, it's a fucking co-main event of a card, dude. Literally mix these next 2 cards together. Get rid of all the fucking bullshit. Get rid of the Camilo versus Green. Cut them both. Get rid of, a Luna Santos versus Lisboa. Get rid of a Carlos Hernandez versus Hyung-Sung Park. And then take the good fights from next week. Zach Reese, Dustin Jacoby versus Bruno Lopez. Ludovic Klein versus Mateusz Gamrot. Medeiros versus Oki. Brahimaj versus Elliott. Gustafsson versus Jeremiah Wells. Like, these are good fights. Mix those 2 cards together and you're good. But no, they just got to take fucking shits every single weekend instead of, giving us 1 good card instead of 2 shitty ones. Like, we're sitting here having to listen to the fucking Dustin Poirier ad for the 90 millionth time. Hang with Dustin Poirier. Y'all started without me. Like, get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. But yeah, my prediction was Bellato gets the job done in a shitty fight. That's the co-main. But look, main event, Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. There's really no point in digging into the weeds here. Michael Morales is going to knock him out within the first 3 rounds. Michael Morales, well-rounded, younger, stronger, faster, nasty striking, KO, and finishing potential, improving on a fight-to-fight basis. Just knocked out a crafty vet in Neil Magny with 0 adversity. He's gone the distance before. He's shown that he has the ability to extend his fights. Smart's fight. He fights smart as well. Doesn't take a lot of risk. Tends to stay defensively sound. I don't remember him ever getting knocked down or caught with a shot that he really shouldn't. Most of the time, he's either able to KO these guys very early, or he just, kickboxes away, mixes it up to a decision using his natural athleticism, his talent. I mean, the dude's a natural athlete. He's only 25 years of age. He's going to get the job done here. Look, Gilbert Burns, he's been there, he's done that, but he's been in wars. You think about the Chimaev fight, you think about the Usman fight, even the Brady fight last time out, that was a hard scrap for 5 rounds. And, got injured versus Bilal, like, within the first round, going for a takedown. These are looks that I just really don't like. And was Gilbert Burns' last fucking win over Neil Magny? Holy shit. No, it was over Jorge Masvidal on the Pereira versus Adesanya 2 card. So if that just puts anything into perspective, I mean, you probably remember where you were on that Pereira versus Adesanya 2 card. I do for sure, because that was a crazy, crazy night. But, look, it's been that long since Gilbert Burns has won a fight. Don't get me wrong, he's only lost to literally the best in the division, the champ, and 1-2 in Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena, and Bilal Muhammad. But, I'm just not seeing a fighter anymore that's going to be able to get the job done over a young, up-and-coming, hungry prospect. We did have some decent scrambles with Sean Brady, decent moments on the ground, but he was really just defending. He's never really been a guy that is like super, super dangerous with his subs. He's decent at them, but, look, his jiu-jitsu accolades never really transitioned all that great. And in the Sean Brady fight, he was also getting absolutely pieced up on the feet. Sean Brady was going to town with combinations on the feet with the hands, chopping low kicks, Dutch-style combinations, hook, low kick, just tearing him up. And Gilbert Burns was not throwing any counter strikes, looked out of shape, looked flabbier, looked slower, looked sloppier, not confident, no conviction on anything that he was doing. I think we see a gun-shy Gilbert Burns here who's going to be afraid of a counter shot of a Michael Morales. And I think he's just going to get picked apart. He's going to be too reserved, too scared to really do anything, to really impose his will. And unless he winds back the clock to 2022, he's not getting the job done. Look, simple as, like I said, no need to really dig into the weeds with this one. Michael Morales is going to knock him out pretty easily within the first 3. I'll actually pick a head kick TKO for Michael Morales, a head kick TKO. So yeah, guys, that will do it. Pretty average card to say the very least, but yeah. If you guys enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe. That would mean a lot to me, and have a great rest of your day.